Hey everybody, this is Evan with the Grainiac, and this is a video on how I restored my 15-year-old plus rainbow playset. The story behind this playset is we bought it off of Craigslist. It was about 13 years old and it was in disrepair. I added a bunch of new wood to it on the swing set portion of it. It was getting kind of rotted at the time, but this is pretty. Oops, drop a camera. The wood was shaking pretty good with the reciprocating saw. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting out the most rotten parts and I'm finding good wood underneath. I was going to paint the playset, but once I got a look at the boards, I noticed it was rotted on the ends of the boards. So I pulled a few of the boards off and there's an actual ant colony living in my rainbow playset. So what I did is I took all the boards off, I let it dry out, and I confirmed the rotted wood wasn't all the way through the boards. It's salvageable, so I'm pretty much just repairing this to the point where I can get another 5 years out of it, another 7 years, and have it still be safe for my kids. Like I said, I did replace some of the structural wood in it, and see, it's kind of soft still. So what I'm doing is I'm going to get a wood hardener that stops the rot from getting any worse. Kind of turns it into almost like an epoxy, where it gets really hard after you put the wood hardener on. This piece for my Sawzall, not the actual saw, I'm just cutting off my bolts that didn't come out when I pulled my decking off. This thing, such a time saver. So I'm trying to get as much of the rotted wood off as I can. Again, I'm not going to make it square and flush all the way across on both sides. I am strictly just trying to get this to a point where my kids can play on it and it's safe and I can get another 5 or 10 years out of it, hopefully. So I'm getting all the rotted wood out of there, all the stuff that comes up easy. But yeah, this chisel bit for the Sawzall, so nice to have. If you don't have one, if you do projects around the house, I did it for rotted wood around the trim of my garage. Saved so much time. Then you can go through and sand it also if you want. But I'm not being very picky with this because I am just going to cover it with a piece of flashing that I have a roll of, I think it's aluminum or tin, probably tin, and I placed that on both sides. So when it does rain or water does get underneath those boards again, hopefully it just runs right off and it just doesn't sit on the wood. So once I'm chiseling down, the wood is actually in pretty good shape. And then I'm going to be painting on the wood hardener. So it's going to be a lot harder for water to penetrate if it does get down to it. I did replace some wood around the whole thing when I bought it. Obviously not these side rails. Dropped it again. So here's the hardener. A little bit goes a long way. Penetrates pretty dang good. And then I go back and knock on it a little bit for you later. Give it a good poke. But the parts that are actually rotted and go deep in there, I use a Durham's water putty. And it hardens like a Bondo almost. But I'm just trying to get it to where the rot isn't going to get worse. And I can fill cracks, fill gaps, and pretty much just limp this thing another 5 or 10 years. I'm not looking to replace the whole set. But I think it'll do really well for what I'm doing. Structurally, it's pretty sound. I can take it right now and just shake it side to side. It doesn't go anywhere, or I should say, try to shake it side to side. The wood on the edge of the slide there, you can see, that's new. I redid that. I redid the main beam going across where the swings are. And then I did make a rock climbing wall that I put on top of the ladder on one side. And this all came about because all I wanted to do was paint this playset. And once I went to go paint it again, I noticed how rotted the wood was. So I couldn't in good conscience paint rotted wood where it's just chipping off with my paintbrush. So once I get this on as a set time of 2 hours, I think. So I'm putting on as much as I can. I'm scraping now, trying to get as much of that rotted wood out as I can. And I'm using a leaf blower to easily just blow it out as I scrape it. Seemed to work really well. I'm not trying to be nice with it. I'm just being aggressive, trying to get as much out as I can if it's not stubborn. There you go. You can actually see what I'm working with. This is the tin I rolled out, measured 63 inches or whatever it was, ran it down. So this is flashing. So when it rains or water gets behind the deck boards that I bought cedar. This is going to go on. I'm going to fold it around the top. And again, these boards, they're still very strong. They're in good shape. All the rotted stuff I took off. Still plenty of good wood there. That's plenty strong. And once I put these deck boards across the top, it's just that much more rigid. This is the water putty I put on to fill the gaps, fill any cracks, splits. Again, this is just going to save the wood from getting worse. Underneath, it was pretty soft in some spots, so I cut it. Anywhere where there was rot, took the rot out. If there's cracks, filled it with the water putty. I just don't want water getting into the wood any more than what it was. And this stuff hardens up like cement when it's done. Give it a little tap, tap, tap there. And once the flashing covers that and water can't get on it anyways, I think it's going to work out real well. So here's the flashing. I bent up the edges. So when the water gets in there, it'll hopefully just come right down through the top. So I got a nice crisp edge on there. I folded it over a wood piece, and you can use a hammer. I had the back end of a hatchet. Whatever works. And there you go. So I made a pretty good edge on there. So I'm going to lay my deck boards on. I am going to go in and backfill it with foam. I didn't get that on video, but that's what I plan on doing. This project took a weekend with the kids in and out. You know, I had to play with them. But doing anything with kids, you don't get to work on it for 8 hours straight. It's 2 hours here, an hour here during their nap, another 2 hours at night once you put them to bed. Cutting some more deck board here. I also ran a board underneath the bottom to help stabilize it a little bit better, I guess you could say. But this is all the cedar wood, so fight against that rot a little bit more. I think I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think I bought 6 boards, so I could get 12 down and across. But pre-drill, screw in, 2 per edge, held in really nice. And so far it seems like it'll do the trick. It'll get a few more years out of it. Didn't have to get a whole new playset. These rainbows are very expensive, and I did not want to replace it. So if you want to see more DIY hacks, like, subscribe, and check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.